This is the Carelove GPS. This is a 7-inch screen GPS. Now, included here with the GPS are all the accessories. As you can see here, the instruction book, a car charger, the windshield mount, the wall adapter, and the USB cable here. And for some reason, they include a couple flower hairpins, which I'm not exactly sure why they do that. Now, one of my initial issues when I opened the box of this is that I noticed that the wall adapter here is the wrong type. It is for either the Europe or Asian market and not for the U.S. market. I contacted the company and was told I would get a replacement for that, and it never arrived. In addition to that, the USB charging cable that comes with this, it uses the old micro type plug. It actually does not work either, and I had to use my own cable with this. For some reason, it won't charge or allow it to connect with this cable to the computer. So, and then the other thing that about this is that although the actual suction mount of the windshield mount seems to be decent quality, the mount holder itself felt a bit flimsy, and I'm not too confident in how well it's going to hold the GPS actually in place. So it kind of worries me a little bit about the strength of the holder part right there. But the GPS itself, it has a nice large screen. It really looks nice on the surface. But I really feel that this is a GPS that's trying really hard to be a tablet, or a tablet that's trying really hard to be a GPS. And unfortunately, it doesn't do either very well. I'm going to turn it on here. But it utilizes version 6 of Windows CE or WinCE. And it tries to do a lot of different things with several features that if the main purpose is to use a GPS, it really isn't needed. Like, for example, it has games, a video viewer, FM radio, and the ability to exit to the Windows CE operating system, among other things. Now, the apps themselves, I think, are pretty primitive, but the biggest problem with these extra features is it tends to run the device out of memory frequently. Let me exit back out of the navigation there, but and there you can see the different icons and things. But the Windows CE features different office programs such as Excel, but they don't appear to function correctly, and it's really impossible to exit out even once you start it, even with using the stylus that's actually attached to the Windows mount. But luckily, you can set this device to boot directly to the navigation screen instead of dealing with the apps by changing the settings, which I've done here with this one. But unfortunately for me, my experiences with this GPS is still not that good. The GPS map itself looks comparable to an old Magellan that I had that's a few years old, and seems to be fairly accurate in finding my initial location. But there's several issues with this tablet or this GPS that kind of detracts from its capabilities. For one, it's pretty slow to find the satellites, especially initially, and seems to have difficulty locating them unless this GPS is outside or attached to a windshield. When I was initially setting this up in my house, it took over an hour to find the satellites, even though I was sitting next to an open window. And for that first hour, it actually had me located in Brazil, which I wouldn't mind being in Brazil, but unfortunately I wasn't there. After initial setup, it isn't that slow in terms of that, but I did find it at times it took far longer to find the satellites than it should, such as when I went on a recent trip to the airport, which was roughly 30 minutes, and it took 15 minutes to actually find the location and start giving directions. It also frequently keeps losing GPS signal, which is far worse than my older Magellan or even my cell phone. And at times the directions were vague. Like, for example, saying take exit, but really didn't specify what exit it was going to take. And sometimes the directions were wrong in terms of some of those things. Now, even though I could deal with some of those issues being a basic budget GPS, for me the final straw was during those times that I was navigating directions with the GPS. I would get errors with a big pop-up box saying out of memory error, or file was missing, things like that. And I'm going to show an example of those here in just a second. Here are 3 examples of the errors. Now, the problem I have with that is that with these errors popping up, especially in the map area, blocking sight of not only the map, it's definitely downright distracting and dangerous in my opinion, as it's not only difficult to get those errors to disappear, as most times you really have to shut the GPS device off to try to clear the error, and a lot of those times the error would still reappear on the screen. So I could see me driving and missing an important turn or exit because of errors popping up on the screen with this GPS, something that's never happened with my old GPS or even my cell phone. The 3 errors I show are as examples of those issues. Now, again, I contacted the company, tried to get them to understand the issue, which is difficult because of the language barrier with the company. And they only really ended up suggesting was to update the maps. They provided 2 web links containing the latest version of software. And so I went to those sites. The first website appeared to be some Chinese-based cloud site with very little English translation, and it basically contained what was called the Primo file directory. I tried to download this from the website, and it kept getting an error saying it was too large. And again, the problem with the translation on the page, it was difficult to read. And the only other option that it was giving me, as far as I could understand, was to download some software client for the cloud website. And I personally wasn't willing to install that file and create an account for some Chinese-based page that I couldn't completely read and understand, only to get a map update. The second file or website was a link to a zip file. I tried several times to download this file. It took over 2 hours to get it downloaded, even with my cable internet connection. And once I finally downloaded the zip file, there were no instructions on how to install it. And when I tried to unpack and run it, it kept giving me an error and does nothing to install the update. So, I tried this several days in a row to fix this map issues, hopefully, in an effort to hopefully fix the errors it was having, and I never received any further assistance from the company. The GPS itself seems to be a rebranded product, as there's identical GPS device marketed under the same seller name with some bad reviews. And I could actually scratch off the Carelove logo on the front of the GPS with my fingernail, which leads me to believe this is kind of a generic GPS sold under many names. Now, not that that's a bad thing necessarily, but however, when the same devices under different brand names seem to have similar complaints, that's an issue with the GPS. There does not appear to be any warranty with this device as well, which to me is a problem when you're dealing with electronics if there's no warranty. Now, the pros with this, it has a large GPS screen. The display is decent, although not clear at all angles. The touchscreen itself is responsive, but there's too many cons with this for me. The wrong wall adapter, the USB charging cable's defective. The apps that included with this are basic, and on top of that, they tend to run the GPS out of memory. There's memory issues when you're running only the GPS. It's slow to connect to the satellites. It has vague and incorrect directions at times. And again, there's several different memory and missing file errors that keep reoccurring. The biggest thing is the errors block the direction screen, and sometimes only a reboot will work to get rid of the error. the difficulty dealing with customer service, no warranty information, and the difficulty in trying to get the GPS updates from the Chinese websites. If they could fix these issues and make, in terms of fixing the memory issues and the map, making the map updates easier to get and install and improve the actual GPS direction, this might make an average budget level GPS. Unfortunately, as it is right now, it has too many issues that for the device for it to live up to what its potential. I personally think it's better to spend a few more bucks if you can get a budget level brand name for only about $30 more than this, and it's probably worth it in this instance. I give this 1 star.